Sorry, I'm just.
Oh, we're starting again.
Yeah, we'll start
Okay.
again. Okay. Well, good morning, good evening, Bracha, and hopefully I pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, you did. Terrific. Thank
Awesome.
you.
You bet. Well, I say morning, evening because I'm here in the morning in Colorado and you're in the evening in Israel. So
Yes.
this is so cool having you from God, what was that, 9 time zones away, I guess. So that's awesome. So where in Israel
Yeah.
are you?
I'm in a city called Beitar, which is close to Jerusalem.
Oh, very cool. Well, what's the weather like over there this time of year?
It's spring-like. It's beautiful.
Is it?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'd say it's spring-like and beautiful in Colorado, but it's a very different kind of spring-like and beautiful. It means that means it snows here.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. As I was telling you off the air, we went from 60 degrees yesterday to 6 degrees today, and it's going to go below
Ah,
0 tonight, and
woo.
snow, and that's springtime in Colorado. Well, we're not even springtime; it's only February, but that's springtime in
Right.
Colorado anyway.
Oh
Well, that's
my.
cool. How long have you lived in Israel?
Well, I'm sort of living here part-time, and I'm also still living in the States also.
Okay, where in the
Yeah.
States?
In Baltimore, Maryland.
Nice. All right. Well, I got
Yeah.
some heritage in Baltimore, so to speak. That's where my parents met each other, and
Oh,
so they moved to New York right after I was born, I guess. So, but that's cool. All right. So, how big a town is it that you're in there? Is it pretty small?
I don't even know how big the town is. I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't even give you an estimate. I'm not really good with that. I don't know.
Sure.
That's a
Okay.
good question.
All
I'm
right.
writing it down to try to find that out.
Okay. All right. We'll figure that out at some point. Well, good. You have written a ton of children's books primarily. I know you've done some more writing, but where did your passion for writing children's books come from?
I always loved picture books. Those were my favorite kind of books. I mean, throughout my life, even as I became an adult, like when I go into someone's house, I try to find their picture books to read, like that's what I'm drawn to. And I don't read too many books for adults. I still, those are still my favorite books. And I try to write the books that I wished I had as a child. I try to write spiritual children's books, like books that help children's souls to shine. That is what they all have in common, even if they're books about being healthy or books about the prevention of abuse or books about learning disabilities or even books about swimming safely. They're all about helping your soul to shine because having a healthy body is a really important part of being able to shine fully in life.
Absolutely. So you're starting them off early, so to speak.
Yes, exactly. I want to give them the to tools, the happiness tools, the skills to have a happy life. If you get them early on, then you don't have to play catch up the whole rest of your life.
Oh man, that is so true. I mean, we're going to talk a lot more about nutrition stuff here in a little bit, but that is so true. I mean, you teach kids better habits to eat better at a young age. It becomes ingrained.
Yes.
You don't have to undo this constant craving they have every time they drive past the Golden Arches that, oh, mom, we got to stop. We got to stop. I need some nuggets. I need, whatever. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great point. Yeah,
And children are being indoctrinated constantly with subliminal messages too, not even the most overt ones. So any little message we can give in the opposite direction is so needed because it's a huge mountain of other, I call that propaganda that they're getting, and we need to try to get through to their precious souls and let them know really the information that's being hidden from them about junk food.
oh, without a
Yeah.
doubt. And obviously, the food industry is one of the most egregious out there. I mean, I always joke that places like McDeath's, as I call it, um, don't care about killing off its best customers with the
Right.
heart attacks and hypertension and diabetes and everything because they can always groom a new generation
Yes.
of children through
Yeah.
their playgrounds and the Happy Meals and obviously the salt and the sugar, which becomes addicting, and they just have a new crop. It's like people are a renewable resource to them. So
You
yeah,
described that really incredibly. I never even thought about how they're called Happy Meals. Oh my goodness.
right.
You're happy for one moment and then it's it's destroying you. Oh my gosh, I never thought about it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's so true. I mean, um, yeah, I mean, it's not even subliminal. I mean, they go out of their way. I mean, Ronald McDonald. I mean, there's your prime example of, that
Yes.
song like McDonald's is your happy place or whatever,
Wow.
because it's Ronald's place. I
Yes.
remember that, that song from the jingle when I was a kid. Yeah. Uh,
Right.
they
And
equated
all the
with
Ronald
happy.
McDonald houses trying to help, showing how kind they are. But meanwhile, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
toxic, toxic stuff. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, you
Yikes.
look at it, I mean, like Wendy's, their logo is a cartoon character. Burger King has
Wow.
that king, which is basically an anime, what would you call it? A moving cartoon character. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, their advertising is all, geared towards let's hook these kids early.
Wow. I told you I never knew this. So I'm really happy. You just informed me of this new information that I wasn't aware of. That's fantastic. Yes.
I just made this crap
Yeah.
up in my head just now, too. No, but it's true when you think about it. I mean, it is
hmm
amazing. So, and yeah, obviously, as you said, you get through to kids with these visual images. So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
great. You can probably read about 5 books a day and brag to everybody about it because all you read is picture books. You flip,
Yeah.
but, but still, that's obviously, kids hear the message, but the seeing the message is, and obviously they observe what their parents do. They get, they get examples all around them. And when mom is too busy to cook, she takes them over to McDonald's and they get that Happy Meal and everything. But obviously they see that advertising and it is pounded into them from all angles.
Yes. From
We can even,
all day long. Yeah.
yeah, I was having a discussion with somebody recently about the alcohol industry, basically how they were joking about how this year's Super Bowl was known as the Booze Bowl because some of the previous advertisers like crypto companies were not there and it was replaced by all these beer and alcohol
Oh,
ads, and they
wow.
always equate alcohol with good times.
Right.
And
Right.
in fact, I was listening to a New York Rangers hockey game on the radio just a few days ago, and they got through with the intermission report. And it's like, well, the intermission report was brought to you by the Macallan, a whiskey brand. And immediately they went into, okay, and the third period faceoff is brought to you by it's Tully time, they said, which was for Tullamore Dew Irish whiskey. And it's like, good times must equal alcohol, and
Right.
we just
Right.
pounded with these ideas of um, basically temporary fixes, intermittent pleasure, and it leads to some long-term consequences.
Yes, exactly. And the cake. I mean, birthdays mean cake. I mean, it could
Right.
mean something else. What could you how could you bless somebody's life on their birthday that they should live longer? Not with,
Right.
you know,
But with something that shortens their life. You're right.
exactly.
That's a good
Oh
one. I
my
hadn't thought
good.
of that. Right.
Oh my goodness. Wow. And so deep in there, the birthday cake. Yeah, my son. It was his wife's birthday, and they were going out less. They were coming back from something, and it was and their daughter's screaming in the back seat, "Cake, cake, cake!" Because it's like it's a birthday. Oh my gosh,
Well, there is a
Yeah.
rock band known as Cake. Maybe that's what she just wanted to hear the music. That's all. Oh man, but you're right. I mean, God, that is that's really funny. We're poisoning the one person we're wishing long life to. Yeah, let's just hand them a strychnine cupcake here or something, right?
Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah,
Yeah, so you've written, I mean, literally dozens of books and covered a wide gamut of subjects, all to really bring joy to kids, right? Well,
yes,
and not have their joy taken away, I might say, too, because some of them are
yes,
pretty serious
exactly.
subjects. Yeah.
It's serious. I talk about really serious stuff in the most joyful way that you can. That is my whole goal. I mean, like, you know, I I went to Harvard, and people would expect like I write these intellectual things, but I like simplicity. I like taking complex subjects and writing about them in the most simple way you could possibly explain them. That's what thrills me to do that.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
You got to dumb it down for us Americans. No, but no, that's the way it's understandable. No, absolutely. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Einstein, E = mc squared. That sums up everything. Really simple.
Right, right. Of
Yep.
course, he was a Princeton guy, and we don't like guys from Princeton. I went to Penn,
Oh,
which is Princeton's arch rival. I assume Harvard doesn't like him either, right?
oh,
No, I'm only
oh, I
kidding.
don't know.
Well, no, that's cool. So, and this wasn't really the main topic here, but one thing I liked as I was reading a story about how you got started in writing, how you got your share of rejections and you were very persistent about it, weren't you?
Yeah, well, the first one was not a rejection. That was crazy. I was sitting outside with my little children in Israel. I lived in Israel then, and I just had a few minutes, so I brought my notebook with me, and I had time to write a story. I wrote it. I hand wrote it. I put it in an envelope, and I mailed it to America. And a few weeks later, I got back an acceptance. So I was like, wow, this is it. It wasn't on a computer, nothing. I just sent this thing. So that's how I knew I could write children's books. And sure, there were definitely rejections through the years, but yeah, my philosophy is if you get a rejection, you send something out the same day. Just keep it going.
I love
So
that.
don't lose the momentum. Yeah.
No, I mean, you don't even hesitate. You get a rejection and you're just like, boom, we're just going to go out and send out another one or something new. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
the very first one you sent out, what was the impetus to even say, did somebody say, hey, you know what, Proctor, this is really good. You should send it off to a publisher. Or you just get this wild idea in your head that, like, hey, let's give it a shot.
Oh, I'm looking back. Well, first of all, no, but I'm thinking I just recently connected with my high school group. Um, and on social media, they just found me. I don't know how they found me. It was really funny. I said to the guy, how did you find me? Because my first and last name are different. And he said he's a private investigator. I couldn't believe it. That's how he found me. He really knows how to find people. He really was a private investigator. Anyway, so he found me, and I realized that in my high school yearbook, they voted like most likely to succeed, different things. They had me as class author. So they voted this for me that somebody must have known. When looking back, I was like, okay, they know something I didn't realize, but yeah.
Were you writing back then or they just,
I I
it
was
was just
writing for
Monica?
the school newspaper. Yeah.
Okay.
I was the column editor. I wasn't the editor in chief, but I was writing stories then. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, that's fair enough. All right. Well, that's amazing. So, handwritten first manuscript and you get an acceptance. Wow, that's crazy. And uh
Yeah.
yeah. So going back to those old days, let's talk a little bit about, your relationship with food, which probably predates when you went to Harvard. And I know we kind of maybe accelerated once you're there, as a lot of kids get out on their own. Tell us a little bit about, what occurred along the way for you.
Yeah. Well, there was so much happening back then, and I wasn't thinking about gaining weight and stuff like that, but then people started. I remember someone telling me that I should lose weight, and then just seeing all these models and being skinny, and I went on a diet. And I remember I came back from that and everyone was saying how great I look because I lost so much weight. So I'll just keep going. And so I got into like really extreme dieting. And then I got into binge eating. It was fluctuating between binge eating and dieting. And it so like from the outside, nobody could tell how I was suffering. And it
Right.
got more and more into these things so that my life became narrower and narrower as it really food addiction became taking up so much of my time and energy. And it was really taking over my life. As I went to Harvard and then I went on to medical school, and I was just sinking into a deeper and deeper place, and nobody knew. When you have an addiction, you're doing it in secret, and no one knows how you're suffering.
Very true.
So yeah. So that's what happened. It really became horrible, and the behaviors become more and more bizarre as you just do everything in darkness. So it was like that's the only book I wrote for adults, is my memoir, when I describe. It's a documentary because I take out entries from my diary and my journal and the letters I wrote, and then I filled in the missing pieces so you could see. It's 20, covers 20 years, age 12 to 32, how I slowly, gradually developed the food addictions and then how I healed from it. Yeah.
Okay, I've got several questions then. I mean, that's great. One is, um, when the person who told you you should go on a diet, were you an athlete? Was it one of those ideas where, oh, you'd be much better if you were slimmer? Was there anything like that, or was just somebody casually mentioned like, oh yeah, you should diet?
It was a cousin, I remember. I never thought about it until she said it. I wasn't thinking about my weight. I wasn't thinking how I looked, even. I wasn't into that, you know? She was an older cousin who already cared about how she looked. And I wasn't into makeup or anything like that. I'm like, oh, am I overweight? I didn't even realize, like it was like, and that just got me more conscious about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
those kind of, I'm a high school, I coach cross country and track in high school, and we have been drilled over the years about not making comments about anybody's weight. And it's not even
Hmm.
just women anymore, it's men as
Right.
well. Um,
Right.
because you don't know what kind of seed you're going to plant in their head. And
Right.
one particular runner that I know, Ellen Hart, she's actually now in her 50s. She was a Olympic trials competitor, and I mean, top-notch athlete, but she talked about, how just a little hint from a coach, if you would, like, oh yeah, you take a few seconds off, you lost a couple pounds, began a cycle. And it was interesting in talking to her how she went through all those years of, struggle and quote cure. And she was actually in her 50s competing as a masters triathlete. And same thing, a coach made that little comment and it triggered it all over again.
Oh my.
Yeah, so it really it is a trigger that will literally live with you for your life when somebody makes a comment like that, right?
It could, yes. Um, and also there's a reason why the triggers affect a person. It doesn't, like, it might not affect somebody else. We're getting messages all the time. When I started looking at the magazines, they were all about, and I put this in my book, they're all about lose weight, go on this diet, go on this diet. And then the next page, here's a recipe for strawberry shortcake and how to make it. And you're
Right.
like, wait a minute, am I supposed to lose weight or am I supposed to be eating short? Like, it's so confusing, all these messages.
Right.
I I feel like so much of the eating disordered behavior is because we feel out of control and we feel like life is out of control. We are so confused. We don't know what we're doing. I felt more and more that I didn't know what the purpose to life was. I I couldn't believe we get up every day to go to work, to make money, to buy food, to go to work, to make money. What is this all for? It just seemed so purposeless. And as I as the eating disordered behavior kept going, my desire to understand what the purpose of life got stronger and stronger. It was like a desperate search that I was on to try to understand this. And again, I think there's so much about all addictions are about control, feeling out of control, not trusting oneself, and not trusting life.
Yeah, no, very true. And these days there's been so much blame assigned to social media where young people are out there seeing the perfect people out on Instagram accounts. But it goes back a lot further because back in our days, there was what Glamour magazine, Vogue magazine,
Right, right,
Mademoiselle, whatever, and they all had these
right,
pictures of these gorgeous models out there.
right.
Exactly. So it's always been there. I mean, you can go back to the Mae West days when maybe voluptuous was the goal, and I'm sure that affected young girls that way as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So 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 what I came to, my book is that book is kind of like a psychological mystery. What I came to is that addictions are about trying to fill that emptiness inside with externalities, whatever the addiction is. Food is like an obvious analogy that we feel this hunger and we try to fill it with food because it gives us instant gratification. It gives us pleasure immediately. And it's supposed to do that. I mean, that's what the natural foods were designed to do, to give us pleasure in life. But they're designed to give us physical pleasure and spiritual pleasure as we fill up with gratitude for these natural foods. So that's why, like the junk food, it took advantage of that in a way, and it's designed to give us that perfect amount, the bliss point, so that we keep eating it with
right.
the unnatural amounts of sugar and fat and salt, taking out the nutrients, the water, taking out the fiber, everything that's good for us, and putting all this garbage in the lab so that we'll just keep buying more and more of it. And but it wasn't designed like that. It was designed that like that the healthy foods are like to fill us with gratitude and to fill us in a good way nutritionally, to nourish both our bodies and our souls, right? Which the junk food doesn't. So that we've gone very off course from that. And so I forgot what I was talking about to begin with. What was the question?
No,
Yeah.
no, but you were talking about how food, though, is meant to be more of a nourishing, basically giving
Ah,
pleasures. Yeah, right.
giving nourishing both our bodies and our souls. So that's the
Yep.
thing with addictions. We're using external things to fill a hole, which is not a physical hole at all. It's a spiritual hole. That's why it never works. And why we keep overeating is because we want the pleasure to keep lasting. What we're really looking for is lasting pleasure. And so that's what I finally found when I found out how to nourish my hungry soul.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I love your perspective of looking at it that way, in that, yeah, obviously you eat food and you get that momentary pleasure and it goes away, but your brain remembers, oh yeah, that felt really good. And what's sad though is that as the pounds get packed on, now you're not feeling so much long-term pleasure. You're feeling, I don't know if you went through that whole period, a lot of overeaters go through, of the self-loathing, you just, I hate myself for what I'm doing here to myself. And you probably felt it on both ends, I would guess, while you were dieting as well, right?
Well, dieting, I thought, oh, I'm so in control. But then how long can it last? I was starving, you know? So
Right.
then I'd go on these horrible binges. And that you definitely felt worse during the binges because you're completely out of control. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. And yeah, you're left with self-loathing, with guilt, with shame. So it's just a terrible life. I have there's a great quote. Addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. When you heal from your addictions, you get back everything. My life became all the color got drained from it. It was just a gray world.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting. David
yeah,
Clark, who started this podcast, he had a quote, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, is that he was trying to basically improve himself by changing the world. And it was only when he realized by changing himself that he would change the world that, he actually found his calling, if you would. Again, I paraphrase that,
yes,
but that's the concept. Same thing you're talking about there.
exactly, exactly. Save one life and you save the world. That's it. Exactly right. And that life could be your own. And when we when we help other souls to shine, that gets our own soul shining. That's it's just part of it. So yeah, what happened to me is that I finally found what the purpose to life was, and that's what I was searching for, and that changed everything. I was never running on empty anymore, so I never got to that terrible, desperate place anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you do that?
Well, the summer between my first and second year of medical school, I had a 6 week break. And I came to Israel during that time. And I ended up learning about really my heritage, which I had lost. And to me, I didn't know that my heritage was spiritual. To me, it was cultural, it was different things like bagels and lox and stuff like that. But like I didn't see spiritual. I was drawn to Eastern religions and all kinds of stuff, but I didn't know that there was spirituality in my own backyard, not at all. So I I learned from an old rabbi who's no longer alive. What changed my life is he said that the purpose of life is to experience the greatest pleasure possible. Now that did not seem like that's I didn't expect that. What does that mean?
Sounds kind of
It's
selfish. Yeah.
it sounds hedonistic and everything selfish.
Right.
Yes. But the greatest pleasures possible are the spiritual pleasures. Those are the pleasures that last. And so he talked about the pleasure ladder. And I love this is what I love to share. I'm going to hold it up. This is just a basic chart of the pleasure ladder. There's 5 levels.
Okay.
And I think it corresponds to our hands because we can bring pleasure into our lives at any moment. We are totally empowered. Like we have addictions because we feel like we don't have power. We do have power, and this shows this.
Yeah. I'm
We
going to
can,
read that for the listeners here. And actually, I'm going to go from bottom to top because I think that's
yeah,
kind of a good order. I think for it is physical, love, meaning, creativity, and transcendence. That's the pleasure ladder.
yes,
Yeah.
5 rungs. So and they correspond also, these 5 rungs, to the 5 levels of the human soul. The lowest level of our soul is the part that's connected to our body. So this level of our soul, the lowest level,
Physical, right?
is, yes, is uplifted by all the physical pleasures in this world, the natural physical pleasures. So eating whole foods, spending time in nature, moving, exercising. Our bodies are designed to move, swimming, gardening, dancing, yoga, whatever. All these pleasures are designed to uplift us physically and spiritually with gratitude. When we experience, let's say, this tangerine, or an orange, when we experience, or an apple, when we experience it mindfully, it nourishes us physically and spiritually, like just experiencing how it's individually wrapped in a peel that keeps the sweet juiciness in for months. And inside it are the seeds of eternity. They become trees. They become an infinite more amount of tangerines, just goes on, endless and all the instructions for this creation are in the seed. And then also it becomes this bright and beautiful color only when it's ripe and ready for us to eat. Before that, it's camouflage. They're all green. All the fruit are green, hiding in the leaves until they're ready. And then they become bright. Another pleasure for us to experience the beauty. So all our senses get to enjoy this, and so does our soul when we experience it with gratitude and appreciate all the infinite intelligence and infinite loving kindness that went into creating all the abundance and variety that we have. So
Yeah, nice.
yeah, that's just the lowest level of pleasure. And then up is love. Next is love. Now you would think love is dependent on other people, but it isn't, because this definition of love is focusing on the virtues of another. Somebody in solitary confinement in jail can experience love by just remembering what a grandmother once did for them, and they are suddenly filled with a warm emotional feeling that encourages them.
Sure.
So that's love. And then even greater than that, and even more lasting pleasure, is meaning. When we do something good and meaningful in the world, that fills us with an even deeper pleasure. And I was on a show where I was explaining this to the host. He said that day he had eaten 2 slices of pizza and he was sitting by himself, and he was just going to plow through the rest of the whole box of pizza. Someone knocks on his door. His neighbor needs help. He comes back 2 minutes later after helping his neighbor. He doesn't want the pizza, puts the rest in the fridge. He just filled up on doing something meaningful for someone else. So that is an even higher level. Each one brings us greater connection, because when we're in an active addiction, we are feeling estrangement, loneliness, disconnection, anxiety, depression. We feel cut off. So the lowest level, brings us connection to a physical thing. The next level up, love, we connect to another. With meaning, we give back in gratitude to doing something meaningful in the world. And what's higher than that is creativity. That's when we put a unique part of ourselves into the world. When we are being creative, we don't feel like eating or sleeping. We are in a zone that is like such a tremendous high. So that's an even higher level of connection. And the highest level is transcendence. It's when we lift the veils and we take our first crack in an addiction or in a bad habit. We break through, we transcend our own limitations. We become a newer person of ourselves, a newer version of ourselves, and we lift the veils of separation between all of us and everything. As we recognize we're connected to the vegetation, we give to the vegetation, it gives to us. And under a starry, starry sky at night, we feel transcendence as we know we're a part of a huge universe, and we are connected to everybody, and everybody, we all share the same energy, and we're all connected to source energy. So it's like that's the greatest high of all. So each level up brings more and more connection, and there's only one price to pay to climb the pleasure ladder.
Nice. I like it. So, um, explain to me, if you would please, how you applied the pleasure ladder to your own eating disorder, as well as how
Yeah,
others might be able to apply those lessons right there.
great, great. Right. And the price that we pay is gratitude. That's the price that you pay to climb the ladder. That's it at each level. How do I apply it? let's say I feel like overeating. So I say to myself, is it my body that's hungry or my soul? What's really hungry? There's so many other things I could do right now to give myself pleasure. In other words, we overeat from a sense of scarcity. There's not enough pleasure in my life, so I better keep stuffing this in my mouth. And that's how I'll keep the pleasure going.
That's
So,
analogous to, alcoholics who will stash booze because
yes,
they feel there's scarcity. But if they have it there, and then it's always available to them, no matter, for some reason they can't find any more booze somewhere. And I'm sure it's that way with eaters too, right?
yeah, exactly. There's not enough. So just keep going. It's the sense of scarcity versus a sense of abundance. As when we recognize the pleasure ladder, it fills our brains with abundance. We don't feel, oh, on my 600-pound life, they all say the same thing. This is the only thing bringing me pleasure anymore. That's it.
Hmm.
Just putting the food in is the only thing bringing pleasure anymore. So what else could bring you pleasure? Now you know. Put this on your fridge. Put this on your cabinet. There's so many other ways. Let's say I feel like overeating. I could say, will 97 more spoonfuls of this ice cream fill me up? I know it won't. I've been there before. It's never going to fill me up. So
Right.
why keep going? It's not going to do it. What would fill me up right now? Turning on the music, stretching, running, or you could say, you know what? I'll take a 15-minute break. Let's see if I could do something else that's pleasurable. I could always come back to the ice cream then. You have to use ways to trick your self-destructive impulse too, and use it to say, I'll just do something for a few minutes instead of this. Or the other thing is chewing slowly, because when you first do it, it is the most boring thing. You don't prepare your next spoonful until you've fully chewed and swallowed, and then you have the next thing. It changes things because you're not on to the next bite in life. You're not ready to bite the next thing. You're being with what you have, and that gets you into the practice of enjoying what you already have in your mouth right now, what you already have in your life right now. Um, so it's an amazing practice to
And you
try.
and
And
Yeah,
yeah,
and what I like about it too is that if you're eating something healthy, let's say you're eating an apple, it's going to take a little bit of time to for each chew of apple, as opposed to, say, a container of ice cream where you can just
yes,
literally just shovel that in your face. So
right,
yeah,
right,
so I
right,
like that thinking a lot.
right.
Yeah.
You can move horizontally. Let's say you're eating the potato chips and you say, oh, I feel like eating something crunchy. I could eat some nuts. You can move to something healthier, something designed to bring us pleasure in life, not something made in a factory designed out of greed to be addictive. So, like, the natural foods are designed to be delicious and nutritious, while the junk food is designed to be delicious and addictive. And that's a really clear distinction between them.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, the more we can appreciate all the good stuff, and an apple, it's really, really hard to overeat apples. It
Right.
just doesn't, you just don't eat the whole bag of apples like
You don't
you
eat the whole
could.
tree, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're designed that way because they have things in them to fill you up physically too. And if you experience the gratitude with it, oh my gosh, it becomes a spiritual and a physical experience that fills up your life with so much joy, because that's really what you're after. You're after joy and pleasure in life. And the way to get it is through practicing gratitude.
Absolutely. So So just reiterating a couple of those steps. One is actually finding pleasure maybe somewhere else besides food. And it could be just going out and enjoying the outdoors for a bit, or playing with your kids, or whatever it is. So
Yeah,
basically a
this
substitution.
tells you
Yeah,
which brings you greater and more lasting pleasure. And
right.
this is not my own chart. This is from ancient mystical wisdom. So this is like really, in other words, life did come with instructions. That's the thing. People go, yeah, it did. And I really am so grateful that I really finally found the instructions that life came with. So we weren't just put here, help, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. There's really basic instructions. We were put here to experience gratitude. That is really our purpose in life.
Great, great. So how do you apply experiencing gratitude in terms of advancing better eating habits, and not even just eating, just being able to be a better contributor to the world, you might say.
Exactly. That's what happens. As you fill up and go up this ladder, you want to give back to the world in a meaningful and positive way because you're full. So you can overflow to doing positive things in the world. That's what naturally happens when some of my books are about fighting abuse. If or and about learning disabilities, when a person is suffering, it's about teaching how to interact more sensitively to people with learning disabilities because they're usually the loneliest children. So again, with abuse, what happens is you put layers on top to protect the pain that you're keeping in. I can demonstrate it. I'm shining a flashlight. Okay, this is a light that's shining. But
Okay.
when a person goes through abuse, they put layers of protection on top, so you don't even know that you're shining anymore. You can't even see it, but you're always shining. Your soul is always still pure and beautiful because even the abuse and neglect, the trauma couldn't get to the core of you, and that's still there. So sometimes you need therapeutic intervention to help you. You may need a coach, somebody to support you through the process of taking off those layers of protection that are preventing you from experiencing joy and gratitude in life. At the same time, you also need to be nourishing your hungry soul with gratitude. So, as you carefully, with support, start to remove those layers of protection, at the same time, you need to be nourishing your hungry soul so that you can shine with more resiliency, with more fuel for that beautiful light that's still in there shining.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. Have you seen some real life examples, if you would, of people who have basically substituted other sorts of pleasures, if you would? People have adopted the pleasure ladder for positive reasons.
Yes, so many. I mean, see, I one of my books is Let's Stay Healthy. This came out during the pandemic because parents were asking for it. They were saying, our children are home eating junk, not moving, and not going to sleep either. It
Yeah,
was like a nightmare.
right.
So the book, I just explained to children in the most simple way why it's important to eat healthy foods, what non-healthy foods do to us. Oh my gosh, they actually, what soda does, you would never water a plant with soda, but we give it to children. It's unbelievable. The plant would die so quickly. We don't, and like it shows what the sugar does to our bodies, withdraws the nutrients from our bodies. And it shows how our bodies are designed to move, how great it feels to move and sleep, how I just expect wake up in the morning, how different you feel when you've had enough sleep, how much happier you are, how much more energy you have. So I found that even teenagers were picking up the book and being affected by it. I heard from teenagers that go, nobody ever explained to me why I should go to bed earlier. I get it now. And children started getting it and understanding, I don't want this red dye number 7 in my body, I don't want it. It's just made in a lab. They start to understand it. Like they realize that all these colorful little sprinkles, they look so great, but they're just fake dye put on it.
Yeah.
It's poisoning us. And and actually some people say to me, it's not right to make the food feel forbidden. It's not forbidden. You could choose it. I just want people to choose it with an educational understanding, because before they're being tempted to eat it all the time and they're not hearing enough about what's actually in it. So I'm just exposing children to the other side, being a little still small voice in the other direction to let them know it's not forbidden. You can for sure choose it, but choose it more wisely. If you want to have junk food once in a while, it's more a problem of having it be a consistent problem of eating it more often,
Right.
and also it's hard to stop it once you eat it. So it takes away the guilt. Once you recognize that the food is designed to be addictive, you don't feel as guilty when you eat it because you know it was designed to do that to you. You're just responding in the way that the laboratory has wanted you to respond. So
If you're able to control it though, right? I mean,
it's
yeah,
very hard to control. So
right.
it takes away that guilt when a person feels so guilty after eating too much, and then they overeat even more because they feel so badly about themselves. It takes that away too, because you realize it's not your fault. Don't feel badly about overeating it. You were just responding to the way the chemicals worked on your body. So it takes a lot of that. The depression causes people to overeat even more because they feel so badly that they lapsed. Understand that it's totally understandable to lapse because this is what the chemicals are doing to your body. So that's why avoiding it is so important, because it really is hard just to eat a little bit of junk food. It causes you to overeat it.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
I'm thinking of the example of somebody gets caught in a scam and they've sent money to that Nigerian prince and I'm sure those people were like, "Oh my God, what was I thinking here?" And but to me, that kind of self-reproachment could occur to somebody who has gotten quote suckered in by the food industry. It's like, oh yeah, I got suckered into getting the supersize of whatever I was going to make McDeath's for, and doesn't that work negatively towards them? In that not only did they eat poorly, but like, oh my God, I was a sucker too.
Right, but then it's such an empowering feeling to finally have the wisdom in your life now. It's such a great feeling, and you don't feel like you're the weakling. It's not that you're a weakling. You don't feel bad about yourself. You attribute the problem to the actual chemical. You attribute the problem to the junk food. It ceases to be your problem, and you could put it outside of you, which is really, really helpful.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned a couple minutes ago was about kids not being taught why you shouldn't stay up so late at night and everything. So the school district where I live is moving to a later schedule for the high schoolers next year. They've supposedly done all this research and said, high school kids don't learn well early in the morning. So we're not going to start school until 9 or 9:30, which is going to totally mess with things like after school sports programs. I mean, we're going to be
Right.
practicing in the dark, but
Oh,
but my argument is that like maybe parents just need to get the kids to bed sooner. I know, there's resistance there at the same time, but I know plenty of kids who get up early and get things accomplished, and they are none for the worse for waking up at a quote normal hour. But instead, to me, we're coddling them and saying, "Oh, sure, go ahead and sleep till 8:30, and then you can, go to school at 9 o'clock." I mean, they're only sleeping to 8:30 because they were up till 3 in the morning playing video games or whatever they were
exactly.
doing. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a fantastic point. Everyone's on their devices, in their beds, in their rooms. Exactly. So they it's only if you go to bed earlier, you'll be able to get up earlier. It's that simple.
Yeah, I
Yes,
mean, the same thing as when you
exactly.
travel. I mean, yeah, you may have a
Yeah,
day or two of jet lag, but you know what? You adjust your schedule and it'll be
right.
totally normal then. Yeah.
Yes, totally right. Exactly. The whole the sense of entitlement is a problem. Um, that that's a big problem, and that also has to do with a lack of gratitude. We take everything for granted, and to teach children gratitude from an early age is just one of the most vital skills for their whole life.
Yeah, without a doubt. I see such a difference in kids that I coach, even. You can tell the ones that were taught gratitude and obviously the ones who have not been.
Right. And you can still learn it. You
Of
can
course.
still learn it at any point in your life.
Oh, yeah, you could be
And you,
85 years old. Sure.
yes, you could practice on the smallest things. And you'll feel silly when you first do it, but you'll also feel joyful. So just keep giving it a try. Each the more we practice gratitude, the easier it becomes. And like the first car that drives on a rocky road, it's very hard. It's a rocky road. And then for the second car, it's easier. As you keep doing it, you're creating gratitude pathways in your brain. And the more that you practice them, the easier it becomes till you'll find that the moments in your life more and more are filled with joy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And gratitude, you mentioned before you've studied, various religions. I've, definitely poked my nose into, Buddhism or Judaism, Christianity, Islam, whatever it is. But gratitude is kind of a core tenet of Judaism, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the middle word. It's so funny. I didn't know this. No one taught me that. But uh, to say Jewish in Hebrew is a Yehudi, a Jewish person. Hud, hoda'ah, the middle of the word. The root of that word, hoda'ah, is gratitude. It's it's a that's what a Jewish person is supposed to be doing all day long, practicing gratitude, which I had no idea. I thought that was only for Eastern religions. So that was like, woohoo. Yeah,
Oh, very
yeah.
cool. Well, great. Those are some great lessons right there. What have we missed here? Again, I mean, we've covered an awful lot of ground very quickly, but what other lessons do we would be helpful to those people who are struggling with whether it's a food addiction or other kind of addictions, and maybe wanting to move forward in their lives?
Yeah. I learned that it takes 400 repetitions to create new synapses in the brain, 400 repetitions, but it only takes 10 to 20 repetitions if you do it joyfully. You can learn new habits so quickly if you do it joyfully. That's why my books are written in a joyful way for children because they reread the books. That's the thing with children's books. They read them again and
True.
again. And also, another thing with children's books is every age level reads them. People don't realize this. You can get a message through to a child through a children's book, and the parent reads it, teachers read it, grandparents read it. And like I found, teenagers find the books laying around and they pick up and read them when no one's looking too. So if you want to reach a message to everybody, it's a great way to do it. So yeah, so again, joyful is the way to go.
Right.
So create your new habits through joy. Dieting doesn't work. It's all yo-yo dieting. It's so depressing for people. They go on diets, they gain the weight back. This
Right.
is a whole lifestyle change. Fill your life up, fill up on gratitude, and you won't be overeating anymore. And you'll be moving more. It's just the natural way. That's and how we were designed to live here in this amazing garden that we were put in, but we've gone really far away from that.
It polluted the heck out of it, right? But no, it's I constantly preach the power of positivity. And joy, positivity, obviously are closely related, and it makes all the difference. And I do
Yes.
like your idea, though. I mean, if somebody is, say, they're going to start running. I mean, I've known a lot of people, including David, who knew they needed to make a change in their lives, and so they started off by running, walking, whatever, 15 seconds maybe on a treadmill,
Wow.
and obviously increasing it. But if you don't have that purpose in mind and doing it with joy, you're not going to continue.
Yes.
Instead, I have a lot of people saying, "Oh, I don't like to run. It's drudgery, whatever," and they don't understand that I go out. I look forward to my runs most of the time. Maybe today, with the snow coming down, maybe no, but it's I look forward to it. It's there are specific things I can get out of every run, and it may be just, hey, I got outdoors, or I got some time away from my electronic devices where I can just get out there, enjoy. It doesn't have to be nature, just the outdoors a little bit. And as I tell people, no matter how hard it is to get out the door, like on a day like today, it may be tough, but I've never, ever, I can honestly say it, never once come back from a run and said, damn, I wish I hadn't done that.
Wow.
You know,
Beautiful.
yeah,
Exactly. And you don't have, and there's so many different things you could do. Like, it's like incredible. Let's say a person isn't moving. They could start with just their fingers, their hands. I, when in the morning, I don't feel like getting up. I just start stretching. I said, I'm just going to do one stretch. And it moves to another stretch. And this is how you do it. I forgot to mention this. My newest book is Don't Read This Book. It's about that little voice in your
right.
head. Yeah. The voice that's telling you, we all have the voice, the self-destructive impulse. It's telling us, don't get up, just lay here, just keep laying here. We all have this voice. So you say, it tells you, I'll, it tells you just eat a little piece of cake. So you use the same techniques, you use them and you say, I'm just going to stretch a little. I'm just going to stretch my finger. I'll just stretch my wrist. I'll just stretch my neck. You use the same techniques. You just do it a little bit and then you see how good it feels. Another technique, it gets you to focus on what you're lacking in your life. We all have this. It says, oh, he's got a much better one. You should be miserable. Or if I only had that, then I'd be happy. But
Mm, yeah.
the truth is, if once you get it, you'll be happy for a little while, and then you'll go back to your happiness set points, which means you will only stay happy for a bit and then you'll go back, you'll just take it for granted too. So it's about practicing gratitude for what you have right now. We have a saying, who is rich? Those who are happy with what they have. That's an ancient mystical saying from our
Yeah.
tradition. That's it. That's who a rich person is, happy with what they have. So I teach the techniques to young children, how to use that voice and use its techniques to better yourself in life rather than, and to be aware of it. Oh, it's that voice again. It's you. Once you recognize it, when you call it by its name, it loses its power that minute. It's like pouring water on the wicked witch of the west. It loses its power when you go, oh my gosh, it's you trying to make me miserable again. I get it. And then that's it. It runs away. And then you can live your life with gratitude. So what I realized, this book took me 30 years to write because I didn't have the ending until last year. Last year, I realized that voice in your head, it really doesn't want you to listen to it. It wants you to overcome it. It's there so that you build your gratitude muscles, pushing against it and saying, oh no, I'm not going to be miserable. I'm going to be grateful. And that's how you gain your gratitude muscles. It's there to naturally push against you like you're lifting a weight. I'm going to lift that voice off me and feel gratitude.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I think of the analogy of somebody wanting a Christmas Hanukkah gift, and or let's say a shopaholic. I've actually known those people who get their pleasure out of going
Yeah.
shopping, spending, and then
Yes.
they get it, and it's like, okay, well, that was a fleeting moment of pleasure right
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. No,
Go up
I
the
this
pleasure ladder
yeah, no,
with
I ran a race
gratitude.
last weekend where I knew it was going to be really hard. I wanted a good challenge, and it ended up to be a total mud fest. And you know what? I was actually looking so forward to the last lap of this race because I'd already been over this lap twice, and it was a mud fest. It was the muckiest, most slow going slog you've ever seen, and I was grateful for this opportunity because I was out there to test my toughness. I had a time I needed to get back to the finish for that lap to even count. And I was like looking so forward, like I can't wait to get to that mud, even though,
Wow.
the rest of that loop where I was able to run, this was not going to be a run. This was going to be like, shoe sucking mud. And I was just like,
Oh,
bring it on, And yeah.
wow.
So,
Wee.
yeah. So that,
Amazing.
yeah. You also made a comment a few minutes ago that it was very heartening. Malcolm Gladwell said you have to do something 10,000 times before you become proficient at it. So thank you so much for saying, well, actually, it's a max of 400, but if you do it with joy, you can accomplish that a whole lot less fewer times. So,
Isn't that great?
yeah, I mean, 10,000 times may sound, like, oh, yeah, it's doable, but boy, that sounds pretty daunting too. So thank you for,
Yeah, who wants to start?
right.
Exactly. Who want when it's so much we need easy to break a habit, we need easy and enjoyable. That's it. We
Very
have
true.
to identify what brings you more pleasure than eating or whatever else you're addicted to. What can you substitute in to overcome a habit? We need a greater and more lasting pleasure to sub in. More lasting pleasure means going up the pleasure ladder. Just keep subbing in. Once you feel fulfilled in other areas of your life, then you no longer feel 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 the need to fill the void with food.
You
So,
bet.
but and this is how you could do it. It's totally empowering. It's not dependent on getting that over there. You could bring it into your life this very minute by practicing gratitude.
That's fantastic. And I love the title of that book. Don't read this book. It's very clever. It reminds me a little bit of I don't know if you remember Abby Hoffman, who was one of the Chicago singers.
Uh-huh.
And he wrote a book called or he wrote the book called Steal This Book. And
Oh, yes.
yeah, I
I
loved that book.
remember.
Yeah, and it was all about
Yeah.
ripping off the phone company, the power company, the
Mm-hmm.
man, basically. And actually, I think that was probably the handbook for the Houston Astros when they figured out how to steal a World Series, Lousy, rotten, cheating, stinking Astros. But yeah, so the great title for your book. Where can people find your books out there, Bracha?
Okay, so my children created this amazing website. Yeah, it's called thegetzbookshop.com. And you see how to spell my name, the Getz Bookshop. So it's got presentations, videos, it's got all my books, and you can download a free copy of the Pleasure Ladder, much better than this one. And you can put it on your fridge or it's just a chart that you could put on your fridge or your cabinet, wherever you want to remind yourself of the abundance of pleasures you could bring into your life besides food.
Oh, very
Yeah.
cool. No, I like that. That's great. Um, yeah, so Getz is Goetz bookshop.com. And can they find books on Amazon, or is that the one place to go to?
Yep. I'm on Amazon too. Yeah. If you just Google my name, you'll find my Amazon author page. Yep.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, great. What are you working on next?
Yeah. Lots of stuff. Oh my gosh. I'm writing a bunch more books and I'm also writing videos. We're doing animations. So we're working on lots of great projects coming up.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, look forward to seeing that. Where else can people find you out there, social media or where have you?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. And also, I forgot to mention,
Right.
yeah, every place, LinkedIn, I don't know, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I forgot to mention that there's like a discount for new people if they buy any books at the Goetz bookshop. Yeah, my
Oh, good.
children created all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where can they find that discount?
Well, right when you go there, any new person coming gets the discount.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for doing that,
Yeah.
and we'll link all your social media accounts where everywhere on the show notes for the episode as well. So appreciate that. Well, good.
Thank
Well,
you.
yeah, it sounds like we probably covered it all there, right?
You did a great job. A pleasure talking with you. Very easygoing, flowing. I loved it. Thank you.
Well, you know us East Coast types, we're good people, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. No, well, thank you so much for your time on this evening over in Israel, and I'm going to go out and run in the snow here shortly, and with
Amazing.
total gratitude that I can do it.
Woohoo! Go
Yeah,
for it.
you bet. All right. Well,
Thank
good.
you.
Well, thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye. Okay, let me just stop.